So in here, we're able to process 6,000 chickens per hour.
Hello, it's Peter Merrick, and I'm really excited. We're on with Kingsley Cato, a Purple Trinity group, a group that spans the globe with investments in Korea, throughout North America, and also in Central America, specifically Panama. Today, we are going to be looking at a specific opportunity. And the reason we're looking at this opportunity in Panama is because so many people in Europe, in Canada, in the United States are looking to globalize their investments, where they're going to have income, and they're also looking to move their residency. Because in the last 3 years, the world is not what we remember it to be. And today we are going to be speaking about a chicken processing factory operation in Panama, food security. And what I'd like to do is introduce you to Kingsley, because he has spent the last year on the ground researching opportunities for individuals, and I must stress, individuals who want to diversify their assets. I had an opportunity a few weeks ago to speak with one of the top tax professionals in Canada. And in our discussions, after the Emergency Act in Canada was put in place in February, his phone went off the hook. And 95% of those who were calling him were asking him, as their trusted advisor, how to take their assets out of Canada. And 5% wanted to pull the trigger to leave Canada. And this is a question that many people have had. So over the last 3 years, both Kingsley and I have spent hundreds and hundreds of hours looking at opportunities that would allow people in Europe, people in the United States, people in Canada to transition to not only a better life, a more secure life, where they will have peace of mind and be able to generate an income. Kingsley, thank you so much for being on with me today.
Awesome. My pleasure, Peter. Nice seeing you again.
Well, share with me a little about yourself, Kingsley. I think that our audience needs to know who you are, since they're going to be trusting you with being their guide, their Sherpa, to show them how to transition, as you have with your family. And more importantly, you not only transitioned with your family, you moved your children to a better life from being locked away in constant lockdowns in Ontario, Canada.
Well, I am the head of global opportunities for Purple Trinity Group, and in Panama right now, we have a tremendous opportunity that we're happy to share with folks who might be interested in diversification, and that has to do with the poultry industry. And to give a bit of background, Panama is the #1 consumer of chicken meat in particular in Central America. Per capita, Panamanians consume around 43 to 44 kilograms of chicken or chicken meat. And that's followed by Costa Rica, which is around 36 kilograms. Then you have Guatemala, which is around 25 kilograms, followed by Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and so on. So chicken is a staple food in Panama. And the chicken plant or the poultry processing plant is being established here in Panama. The poultry sector in Panama amounts amounts to about $400 million a year. And it's growing. There is a growing demand in the market right now. And you may have seen some of the articles, not only in Latin America, but in places like Mexico, where they've had to raise the chicken import quota to avoid shortages. In Canada, where we both are from, there's a increase in prices around 7 to 8% year over year. In many places in the United States, there's been increases around 10%, a little higher. The U.S. Agricultural Department, for example, stated that a pound of chicken wings increased by about $3 from last year. And to put that into perspective, last Super Bowl, Americans ate 2 billion wings. So in terms of the project itself, it's a brand new state-of-the-art poultry processing facility, which can process up to 6,000 birds per hour. And it's outfitted with brand new equipment imported from Finland. Around $9 million, or just over $9 million, has already gone into the facility. And it's on the verge of opening. There is some additional financing needed in Panama right now, and in many other parts. Many of the financial institutions are not extending credit. So this is one of the challenges companies such as this have. Even though there's a shortage for whatever reason, shortage of chicken for whatever reason, it's difficult to access additional capital through, even for a great business as this. We're looking at income of over $18 million, in the first year, right, of operation. But, for whatever reason, it's difficult to access capital. So we're reaching out to investors who want to participate with the group and benefit from what I see as an oversight from the banking sector.
Okay. So in here, we're able to process 6,000 chickens per hour. So after the chicken is culled, it goes into the scalding tank right here, and that allows you to remove the feathers, which are removed here in the plucker. Okay, so once the chicken is finished with the plucker, it comes to this area, and then this machine takes it over to the other side where the chicken is cleaned out, essentially. Okay, so in this area is where we finish the cleaning before it transfers into the other side that you saw earlier.
The company is managed by a professional team. The president has over 31 years of experience in managing such facilities. And overall, the team has more than 50 years of experience. Our annual sales projection beginning in the first year is around 18 million. And just around about 3.5 of that would be net earnings. So we intend to dividend out a good portion of that to investors who would come in and participate with us. We're offering 100 blocks of shares at $25,000 per block. And that would allow us to raise the additional funds we need in order to hire, factory staff, and to stock our feed plant with corn and soybean, which is the primary feed that we use in the chicken business. So it's a tremendous opportunity. Anyone who would like to know a bit more about it can reach out to us. Our website is purpletrinitygroup.com, and you can email me directly as well, Kingsley at purpletrinitygroup.com for any additional information.
That's wonderful, Kingsley. So the average chicken is what size?
The chickens can obviously grow bigger, but generally they're harvested around 5 or 6 weeks. And at that stage, they weigh generally between 3.5 to 4 pounds.
Yes. So we're talking about 24,000 pounds of chicken an hour to be processed, right? A lot of
Yes,
food.
yes, yes.
And the reason I'm so excited about this opportunity is anybody who goes to a supermarket just knows how prices have increased. And food security is something that people are looking at. And those are the investments that people really want, because we're going back to the basics. I understand that people like tech and people like all these fancy dancy things that are being introduced in services and consulting, but those are built on the basic needs and food, shelter, and we have to make more babies. Other than that, everything else is tertiary next to feeding. One of the opportunities that I believe is linked to your opportunity is Panama is welcoming to investors and also welcoming for them to become residents. And this opportunity of the chicken processing facility allows people to not only have an income producing investment that will earn from day one, not 5 years, not 10 years, day one. And it can only expand as prices go up. It also allows them to have a route to get residency almost immediately. And can you address, from your understanding, what are the requirements and the different avenues that an individual who says, hey, I'm sick and tired of lockdowns, I'm sick and tired of mandates, I want to be outside, and I'm sick and tired of cold. And I don't know if you've seen this, but in Europe, they have dance clubs where people dance just to make human heat because they don't have access to warmth. So can you share with us what are the routes, and more specifically, how could this investment into the chicken processing lead to someone bringing their family, having an income, and increasing their quality of life?
Well, I'm by no means an immigration expert, but one thing I can say is generally when you migrate to a country, it is preferred, if you can show that you have the ability to maintain yourself. This is one of the benefits of this investment. We're offering 100 blocks at $25,000 per block, but there's no limit to the number of blocks of shares a person can buy. The dividends that would be paid out of that would be income. And if you, for example, were to move to Panama as a, under the retiree visa, this would allow you to qualify, as far as I know, for the retiree visa, right? Which would allow you to remain in the country for the initial 2 years, and then you can apply for the permanent one, right? And then obviously there are other opportunities. There's investor visas, there's real estate visas, folks who provide technology transfer and so on. But definitely an investment in our opportunity would allow you the opportunity to seek Panamanian residency.
One of the things that I find very fascinating about Panama, because a lot of people are looking at different locations to move. One of the things that's very fascinating about Panama is Panama City is a world-class city with over 2 million people, and most of the country happens to be jungle and undeveloped. So depending on the type of lifestyle that someone wants to live, Panama offers it all. Plus, it's got the canal, so there's lots of goods and services that are coming through Panama. And one of the things that you and I discovered on another project that we will be talking about in the future, Wizio, which is an educational platform offering education to people around the world who are looking to develop skills, also getting apprenticeship and work opportunities, is there happens to be 12 serious cables going into Panama, 6 from the Pacific and 6 from the Atlantic. And it is a hub for Central and South America for internet technology. So you will not be cut off from the world. You might even have better internet service than you have right now. So it leaves you the opportunity to try so many different things. On top of that, because Panama is so central for world trade, there happens to be almost every embassy that you can imagine and consulate in Panama. So whatever citizenship that you have, you will be able to also conduct business with your home country, because it's their consulates and embassies are there to promote business. And because where it's strategically located, there's an international airport that flies almost anywhere in the world. So you are completely connected. One thing I want to address, because I think it's important as an opportunity, because my background was putting together strategies that would legally allow individuals to legitimately reduce their tax bill. Panama is a very unique country in that realm of tax minimization. Can we just address that? And you can share with me the different opportunities when it comes to proper planning that you've discovered down in Panama that you were not aware of, because most people focus on the Caribbean islands like the Caymans, and they completely neglect this jewel. And I think it was done strategically. Basically, if I was the devil, I would want to distract you. So I would actually be in a place where I could go and take the jewels and reap the benefits. So if you can just address what makes Panama specifically unique, not only for this investment, for expats or people relocating, it just makes it a place that you should consider.
Well, you touched on a number of those items, right? Like I like to say, the only thing you don't get in Panama is ice and snow, right? In terms of the internet service, it's one of the best I've found in the world. Cheaper than you would imagine. In Panama, you can pay around $50 a month and get, 500 megabits per second internet service, which is reliable. Cellular service that's much cheaper than North America, much cheaper than what we're used to in Canada, for sure. In terms of access to the rest of the globe, out of Tocumen Airport, you can fly to 81 countries. There's more than one international airport. From Canada specifically, Air Transat is flying here 4 times a week, 2 flights from Toronto and 2 from Montreal. Of course, there are other airlines such as American Airlines, Copa, and a few others that fly directly from Canada and the United States, and also from Europe. From the Netherlands, for example, you can fly directly into Panama City. And the other point you touched on, which I'll talk a little bit more about, is the fact that Panama has the second largest free zone on the planet. The only free zone that's larger is the one in Hong Kong. And as you know, the Panama Canal, supplies most of the goods to Central America and a huge part of South America. So there are a number of advantages here. All the amenities you need are here as a Canadian or an American who might be looking to to immigrate. And yes, it's one of only a handful of countries that are um, you know what's the word, carbon neutral, I think the term is. More than 60% of the country is green, untouched, unspoiled jungle and forest. Large rivers, beautiful mountain views. Of course, there's the Caribbean Sea on the north with beaches, and then you've got the Pacific Ocean on the south, also with beaches. So you're always about an hour away from the nearest beach. And then Panama City, of course, is a huge international metropolitan area where you can find just about anything you want. Large modern shopping malls, restaurants from many different cultures, Italian, Chinese, Indian, many of the things that we're used to in Toronto. So, like I said, in Panama, the only thing you're missing is ice and snow.
I had a joke that a friend of mine shared with me. He said, Canadians look towards their summers like the rest of the world look towards their Fridays. And I truly believe that, because I have not seen a winter in 3 years. Now, what I'm really excited about, Kingsley, is I'm going down in a week to Panama to actually have my feet on the ground. Now, you've had your feet on the ground. Now, one of the things which makes you special is you are the UN. And what I mean by that, you grew up and there's really no identity for what you are, and you speak many languages. And one of the languages you speak is Spanish because of your grandmother, who is from Venezuela. And that has given you a unique perspective and a unique gateway into Panama. And let me just share with our audience what I mean by that. When many expats go to a country, they take their country with them, and they do not have anything to do with the people of that country. And you also see that in places like Canada or Toronto, where you could have a community that's 300,000 people, and the people who immigrate there, there's people who don't speak English. And this happens and is happening in places like Mexico. It's happening in many of the countries in Central America where expats are going. You, because you speak fluent Spanish, you've actually been sitting down with the people who actually live there and run the country. And they are so relieved that here's someone who's willing to speak their language, to understand their problems, and they're willing to show you the opportunities that many people who go to these countries do not see, because they do not leave their gated communities. So if you could share with us how it came about that you found this opportunity.
Well, yeah, I mean, your point is right on. People are appreciative of you when you show an interest in their culture, and their country, their language. And I found that the folks in Panama are very warm, and they've embraced me as I've come in as a Canadian who took an interest in the country, in the culture. There definitely is an advantage to being able to speak the language, because most Panamanians are not English speakers. And so they're willing and able to, show you some of the details that we as expats often miss. And so once I share with people what I do, they're willing to introduce me to opportunities that exist. And this just so happens to be one of them that a banker friend introduced me to. And he felt a little bit heartbroken because this is a business that has tremendous potential, an experienced management team. There's a demand for the product not only in Panama, but outside of Panama, in the surrounding countries, in North America, in Europe, in Asia. The demand for chicken really is worldwide. And you don't really need me to tell you this. Just go online, look at the news, and in fact, go to your local grocery store, and you'll see the huge inflation. Part of that is a shortage. The other part is a lot of folks are now turning towards chicken meat because the cost of other meats have gotten so expensive. And so opening this plant, we know we're already negotiating contracts to export product outside of Panama. But the truth is we can sell everything we can produce within Panama, right? But obviously in the export markets, there's opportunity to generate much larger revenue. And so we're open to looking at those opportunities as well.
So it's just not limited to 6,000 processed birds an hour. It could be much more than that. One of the beautiful things is the cost of production would be a lot less because it's a lot warmer. When you're in a northern climate, everything has to be enclosed. So just the cost of production. One of the things, Kingsley, that I found very fascinating about the chicken processing is that there is a built-in margin to every bird. So if inflation goes up and the cost of inputs go up, the profit margin does not go down.
Yes. So generally, this is a 20% margin business. Obviously, with some of the inflation we've seen in North America, it's become a 50 or a 60% margin business. But we're not there, particularly in Panama. Obviously, one of the restrictions is in Latin America, the incomes are more limited. So, companies producing chicken here are not able to increase the prices as rapidly as we've seen in North America. So even importing from Panama into the United States can be very profitable for American companies.
Well, that's something that's very interesting because I know that they have quotas that get traded on chicken. And this is something that many grocery stores and chains, they're looking at bringing in more birds. And I remember reading not that long ago that the bird flu had infected millions of chickens in Canada. And it doesn't stop people from wanting to eat chicken, and we need protein. And I know there's a lot of people who are not, meat eaters, but the majority of us are. And we want to have our chicken. We want to have the bird when we go to Costco. We want to be able to go and have a Kentucky Fried Chicken. You name it, people want to eat chicken. So, Kingsley, you were on the ground there. You saw the state of the art, and I'm going to go and share a video of you walking through this plant, because many people, when they think of Central America, they think it's backward, and they think like it's all rusted, and it's like it's unsanitary. And we're going to be showing a video where you're going to be really shocked, because usually when you find processing plants that look like they're in the third world, they're usually in North America. This is a first world processing company with the most modern technology for processing chickens. So even though you shared that there's a 20% built-in return, the efficiency might make it much more.
So in here, we're able to process 6,000 chickens per hour.
So share
Well,
with me what it was like. Please share with me what it was like being on the ground, actually seeing a chicken processing facility.
well, in the 20% that I mentioned is specific to Latin America, right? Um, if we were to sell the same product to the United States, the margin in some cases, or Canada or other parts of the world, Europe, the margin can actually be closer to 100%. And this is why we're interested in the export market. Um, our goal ultimately is, as we begin to export, to expand the plant because there's such a demand. With the amount of chicken Panama is eating and many of these other Latin American countries, they're all scrambling to find additional sources. And in the case of our plant, we will be able to provide service to Panama, but we can also provide service to the surrounding countries, and we can export to North America and to Europe as we expand the plant. The bird flu that you mentioned earlier, created a real problem for the market because beyond some of the issues that were surrounding COVID and plants shutting down for a period of time, millions of birds had to be destroyed because of the H1N1. This problem has not been seen, at least to that level, in Latin America. The birds are healthy, they're being raised and fed properly, and the quality of the product that comes out of the facility is really first world. And you can ask anyone who is eating chicken locally in Panama about the quality of chicken that exists here.
Now, Kingsley, just to recap, for this opportunity, what's open to someone who wants to invest? How many shares and what is the allotment that they can purchase?
Well, we're selling a portion of the company, and folks are able to buy blocks of shares for $25,000 a block. At the end of the day, the total amount of shares we're giving up to raise this amount of capital will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 20%. So $25,000 will get you a block of shares. And we're selling 100 of those blocks, which will raise about $2.5 million. And we, as a policy, intend to dividend out 20% at least of our annual net income. And of course, we'll reinvest in the facility in order to grow and expand. We have a very good expansion plan that see us reaching much, much higher numbers than $18 million a year, which we absolutely are certain we will reach in the first year.
Yes, that's fantastic. So Kingsley, if someone wanted to reach out and get more information, how can they?
Well, obviously they can always contact you, Peter, but they can also go to our website, purpletrinitygroup.com. My personal email is kingsley@purpletrinitygroup.com. And we're also on Instagram. We recently launched an Instagram page, and you can DM us also at Purple Trinity Group on Instagram.
Excellent. Well, Kingsley, I'm excited. I'm going to be on the ground, and we are going to shoot our next videos in the chicken processing plant and also the other opportunities that we are involved in that we're bringing to people around the world. And again, I want to stress, it's not just about investing your money. It's also potentially moving yourself and your family for a quality of life, and in this winter, a warmer life. Thank you so much, Kingsley, for this informative conversation.
Thanks, Peter. Looking forward to seeing you on the ground in Panama.
Me too. And the greatest healer for anybody later on in life is to mentor younger people. And I find this all the time. I sit down with business owners all the time, and they always give me unsolicited advice because they want to share their knowledge, and it's really important.
Here with me is Peter Merrick.
President of merrickwealth.com.
Peter is an income and capital enhancement consultant,
speaker and author.
He is also a
recognized expert in the world of succession planning.
There's over 800 published articles and 3 industry textbooks.
He's a Canadian who joins us today from San Diego, California. Thanks for joining us.
So, Peter Merrick, tell us about you.
Well, I've been in the financial service industry since the end of 1991. I graduated during the recession. The baby boomers were in their positions, so there was no jobs. So the 2 businesses that opened up were the technology field and the financial field. It was the Wild West in both of them. So I had this brilliant idea, and I had a friend of mine, and we started talking, and I said, hey, how difficult would it be for us to get a mutual fund dealer license? Not difficult enough. Thank God for those 10 years, the market just went up. I would sit down and I would take somebody's entire life savings that they spent 15, 20 years accumulating it, this young kid who knew nothing about nothing, and I would go and just invest it, and luckily it went up because the markets were crazy in the 90s. It was a boom time. But in 2004, my life blew up. I almost went bankrupt, but I was very fortunate because there were very few CFPs at the time, but every university in Canada wanted to offer the CFP program, so I got recruited as a prof. And it was great. I was reading all the textbooks. I would call all the big publishers. And what I came to the conclusion was the succession planning was missing. One of the issues was there was very little talking beyond the accumulation stage. Like, how do you have a healthy life after you've done that? I also looked at demographics. At the turn of the 20th century, the average life expectancy in the West and North America was 43 years old. And people are dying at 83. No one ever lived to 83.
Well, so I always say that there's 2 financial plans. There's the financial one that we work on, and there's what you're going to do with all your time and that energy once you're done. And with this thing that they've been racing towards, they've hit it. But if they haven't thought about what they're going to do after or how they're going to feel validation for their existence, they just never stop. They just keep going. Well, it's not anybody's fault because when people are young, they focus too much on doing. And later on in life, they have to focus on being. So I wrote my own textbooks because I thought it was very important to talk about how do you transition from the first half of life, which Carl Jung called it the morning, where you're accumulating, whether it's your ego, designations, education, houses. The second half is deconstruction, giving wisdom away, giving away my money, giving away my time, leaving a legacy. So talk to me about that stage. What's the purposeful way or kind of the best practices, ways, or considerations for people to take when transitioning into that stage of life? Well, one, decide whether or not you want an exit. I find between the ages of 55 and 70, a lot of people feel that I'm just tired doing the same thing that I've always done, and I have the money now. So maybe I should get out when the going is good and pass on my business to someone who's got the energy to navigate it. Number 2, who are you going to sell your business to? There's one issue about selling it to a family member or an employee. What happens after you sell it? Things don't go right. A lot of business owners want to sell their business because they just want to wash their hands. But by selling it to someone you know, you're not getting out of your business. The best is to sell to a third-party purchaser. The last one is after they make that transition from being a business owner, building a nest egg for themselves to have choice, they don't know what they're going to do. I've spoken to people who say, I'm going to take up golf. So my question is, do you golf now? I don't golf now. So what makes you think you're going to golf later? I just want to share with you guys a story. There was a gentleman, his name was Bob Hunter. He was quite a celebrity. He started Greenpeace during the height
of my blow up when I was going through business loss. He was bringing me on national television. And you know what he was doing? He was saying, so Peter, don't you do that? And then he would give my phone number and he would give my web address. The reason why it went by merrickwealth.com, because it was almost like a phone number that would run across the television and I could actually see myself making money off of it. And he was dying. He had prostate cancer. And he turned to me and said, Peter, one day you will be in a position that you'll help someone else. And let me share with you about the legacy. Bob's been dead for 16 years. And I'm sharing you the legacy of Bob Hunter because he made a difference for me. And if I make a difference in anyone else's life, I'm a product of those people who are willing to do things and they had no expectations. And a true mentor is someone who has no expectations that they're going to see the tree blossom.
The reason I wrote The King of Main Street is younger people don't know how to find the right mentors, and older people have this need to mentor. It's almost like a biological need because they can see beyond their physical existence. They know that the sun was here before them and it will be after them, and what's going to be left behind that they leave.
I would joke, I can't make you money, but I can definitely save you money. What I mean by that is I am a Sherpa. That's someone who would guide someone to help them come down. But I realize the most precious asset they have is not their money. It's their time.
What last piece of advice would you like to give our listeners?
If you have a business, the most important thing to ask yourself is, why did you get into the business? And it's usually not to create a legacy, it's to create the lifestyle that you want. And at that point, ask yourself, what do you want to do during your last days?
The last human freedom is to choose one's own beliefs, one's own way. Everything else you can have taken away from you. But what you believe and how you choose to act in the world, that is yours.
And the greatest healer for anybody later on in life is to mentor younger people. And that is going to give you fulfillment emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. You guys have been wonderful, and I want to thank you, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.